What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome to the MKO Pugilism Boxing channel, where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like, subscribe, hit a bell notification, put it on also, get notified as soon as any new content drops. So without further ado, let's get into this one. So just going to be talking briefly about Oleksander Usyk, should I say, the unified heavyweight champion of the world versus Dynamite Daniel Dubois. This fight will be taking place in a few days' time now, this coming Saturday in Poland. And this is as close to a homecoming as Oleksander Usyk can get at the moment. Obviously, you've got the war going on and everything, so this is as close as it can get in Poland. There will be a lot of Ukrainians in the audience. There's a lot of Ukrainians who are residing in Poland at this point in time. So Usyk is clearly going to have the crowd on his side when it comes to this fight. And as far as breaking it down just a little bit, you've got one man in Daniel Dubois who only has one loss on his record. One loss, of course, comes to Joe the Juggernaut Joyce, which he suffered a bad eye injury in the fight. And he did, in my view at least, and in most people's view, he did quit in that fight. Since then, he's come back. And one thing I do give Daniel Dubois credit for is his grit and determination in his last fight against Kevin Lerena. Now, while many people will say it was a horrible performance, terrible performance, one thing he proved is that he's got grit, he's got determination, and he's a guy that will look to finish you. And that's exactly what he done against Kevin Lerena. He had a rough patch, he got hurt, he got put down, he injured his ACL, he injured the leg and everything. And he come back from that adversity, much as there's a little bit of controversy over it and stuff, but nonetheless, he got hurt, he got injured, he came back and he stopped the guy, and he showed that willingness to sort of come from behind and stick it on the guy when he needs to. And I think that's something that going into this fight, he really is going to need to do. He's really going to need to stick it on Oleksander Usyk. He's got youth on his side, has Daniel Dubois. He's definitely the bigger man, so he's got size on his side. And also, I think Daniel Dubois has got quite a decent engine. He's a guy with good punching power, definitely the puncher out of these two guys. And I think if he catches Oleksander Usyk, he certainly has the ability to hurt Oleksander Usyk. So Usyk could be in trouble if he gets caught with a shot like that. And for me, as far as Dubois' tactics, they seem to be, you know, according to Don Charles, what I've seen in the media and how they've been working out, it seems to be about putting it on Oleksander Usyk. Pressure tactics. They've brought in James Ali Bashir, who worked with Vladimir Klitschko, and who also, of course, most notably worked with Oleksander Usyk. He's a very knowledgeable guy. So they've had him in the camp. So they will have been, Team Dubois will have got a lot of insight from Ali Bashir, and they would have got a bit of insight there and a bit of help, and hopefully that'll be a morale booster for Daniel Dubois. But for me, he's just got to make Usyk uncomfortable. He's got to sort of set about him. He's got to operate, for me, from sort of mid to ideally close range with Oleksander Usyk. I feel Dubois got to make sure that he attacks Oleksander Usyk's body from early in the fight. He's got to go to them ribs, give him those liver shots, that, you know, hit those floating ribs all you can. And he's just got to go in there with that style where you just sort of hit anything you can. And I think that's what they've been talking about in camp. That's what Don Charles been talking about. So it's one of those where that is what he's got to do. He's got to have a game plan where he's going to throw everything at Oleksander Usyk, and he's just going to make it so that Usyk feels uncomfortable. We saw that sort of thing, although Derek Chisora lost the fight, and yes, I accept Daniel Dubois, a very different fighter from Derek Chisora. He's not really a mauler like that. He's more technical with what he does. But nonetheless, Derek Chisora showed that Usyk can be made to feel uncomfortable when you put him under pressure. Anthony Joshua showed that in spots. So Dubois got to kind of take from that Chisora blueprint. You didn't have to fight exactly like Derek Chisora, but he has got to sort of apply that pressure with his feet. Got to try to make him feel your weight. As I say, body shots a key thing. And he's just got to really put a pressure on him. He's the younger man by, what is it now, 10 years, 11 years. Dubois only 25, 11 years. So he's got to use his youth. He's got a decent engine. He's got to throw sort of punches in bunches and just look to hit anything he can, pressurize Usyk and, you know, really try and catch him, because we know that Usyk hasn't really been a destructive puncher at heavyweight. Is more sort of mainly relying on his boxing skill and his movement and things of that nature. That's what he relies on. So anyway, that's for Daniel Dubois. He's got to stick it on Usyk, fight a you know, sort of marauding fight, keep coming forward, try to cut the ring off, and don't give Usyk that room to move. Don't allow Usyk to get into a rhythm. For me, that's sort of what Daniel Dubois has got to be on. For Usyk has just pretty much got to do what he normally does. He's got to use his movement. He's got to use his superior speed. You know, I think he has the ability to sort of bamboozle Daniel Dubois, to confuse Daniel Dubois with his movement, and even those little hand movements and that head movement. And I think for Usyk, he's got to do his normal thing of sort of reading the patterns of fighters and, you know, keep that work rate up, work at a good pace, you know, throw your punches in bunches, use your tippy-tap punches to set up the bigger ones, and use that southpaw advantage, because I think that's one thing going for Usyk, is that the fact that he is a southpaw, and not only is a southpaw, he's a tricky southpaw, and he's a superior boxer with superior skills. So Usyk is a very, very tricky fighter to box, and I think that's one thing where Daniel Dubois will run into problems and trouble, is dealing with that southpaw stance and that lateral movement that Usyk does. And that's what Usyk's got to do. He's got to just use his movement, you know, throw his combinations, try and break Daniel Dubois down throughout the fight, and just pretty much outbox Daniel Dubois. He's got the advantage in speed and pace and everything. Great engine, Oleksander Usyk. So he for me should be able to sort of outbox Daniel Dubois. I give Dubois a good chance. He's a puncher. He's young. If he can get into Usyk's face, if he can sort of cut Usyk's movement off, then he does have a chance. But for me, I just feel that Usyk's superior boxing skills and just the pure skills and the combination punches, the fact that Usyk is able to sort of fight a 12-round fight and get stronger as the fight goes on, makes me sort of lean more towards Usyk. I think he's definitely got a lot of tools. The age is not really on his side, but so far we haven't really seen major signs of slippage with Oleksander Usyk. So I think he should have enough to beat Daniel Dubois on points overall, as far as a prediction. And if not, if he may even be able to stop Daniel Dubois if he can sort of discourage him, if he can sort of keep pinging him, if he can, you know, keep, as I would look to do if I was in his team, you know, you make Daniel Dubois miss, make him pay. And if he can sort of discourage Dubois by making him miss a lot of shots, by being there 1 minute and then 1 minute your next minute you're off somewhere moving around the ring, and if he can make it to the point where Daniel Dubois just simply can't keep up with him, and he can discourage Dubois, and then as he's missing, he's hitting him with shots. And yeah, I think Usyk definitely has the capability to break Daniel Dubois down and take him out at some point. But what I see is, overall, I think Usyk will have a lot of trouble in the early rounds. I think Dubois will try and put it on him. He will hit him with shots. He may even hurt him in sort of the first half of the fight. But what I see is Oleksander Usyk, you know, taking his lumps, maybe having to take some hard shots early in the fight. But then I see him sort of walking away with it later in the fight. I see his greater experience, because that's one thing Usyk has going for him. Brilliant experience, you know, excellent 12-round fighter. And I just see Usyk sort of walking away with it as we get later on in the fight. I think there's trouble early on. It's a close fight, maybe early on, and then Usyk sort of takes over and most likely wins on points. Or if he's very successful, if he does manage to get to Dubois and hurt Dubois at some point early in the fight, then he may be able to take him out. I don't see him taking Dubois out early. If he does, I think it may happen late. But the overall prediction from me is it's going to be a tough fight. Dubois is going to present issues. He is going to give problems. But ultimately, I see Oleksander Usyk hanging onto his belts on a 12-round unanimous points decision. Let me know what you think about this fight. Who do you think is going to win? Do you, like most people, think Oleksander Usyk, or do you believe Daniel Dubois can cause the upset and shock the world? And I mean, if he did cause the upset, for me, as much as Usyk isn't as famous as Mike Tyson, this would be a Buster Douglas, Mike Tyson type thing, because Dubois is a good fighter, but he's such a huge underdog, and Usyk is a massive favorite to win this fight. So it would be one of those sort of monumental upsets if it does happen, but we'll see. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and until next time, it's MKO Pugilism, over and out.